Ado ya Travis Teller in kia an in slotgo hetlini bashin trotsoni dashe Ado belagan dashanale Qua get sehli get ekest ido Ado ya chajin holgere igisinasha Ako ya qua akot ya in hich desil. My name is Travis Teller. I am of the Towering House people, born for the water flowing together. My maternal grandparents are of the big water people. My paternal grandparents are of the Irish. I live here at Tsaili, but I actually am originally from a place called Black Rock, Arizona, which is about south of here, 13 miles south of Diné College. I reside there too as well. Today we're going to go ahead and get started here with human growth and development. So the human growth and development series we started last week, and in regards to providing mental health education for our students here at Diné College. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started here on the mental health education presentation. And if you didn't sign in, we can always go back to the QR code later on. So Human Growth and Development Series. Here at Diné College, we started a new student mental health wellness program. And within that wellness program, we provide a lot of mental health education, also outreach, prevention, and then also we do referral processes. And on top of that too, also we do a lot of peer support groups that we also provide, that we are creating right now, I should say. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. A lot of the human growth and development series that we're going to be doing here at Diné College is going to be from a Diné cultural perspective and then also from a Western perspective. So we are going live too as well, streaming live, and then also we are on Zoom too as well. So with this series, we're going to be going through stages. So the stages of change of human growth and development. So the first stage that we covered last week was prenatal, from conception all the way to birth. So today we're going to cover birthing stage. So we're going to go ahead and get started here with the slide that I have. The natural way of learning, creating universal centers. So this process takes place in a Hogan setting. For an example, this whole process, they call it ashabikeho notish, meaning the circular pattern of thinking, the circular pattern of learning. So the whole process of learning takes place from the east direction of the Hogan, which becomes the awakening stage. So when you're being told a story, for an example, we have a story there, a fire there, and there's a story to that fire. And within that story, maybe you might have not heard it before. Maybe you have heard stories about the fire. So just for an example, so for this fire here, there's many different stories and many different philosophies. And then also there's songs and prayers that actually go with it too as well. So just to share a little bit for you to understand this whole process. So to understand this process, I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about the fire here, the significance behind it. So when grandfather and grandmother talk about it, they say, "Des not." And when you translate that, it means like it has been flowing. It's been flowing. Lede chadeshi des not. Meaning it's flowing, that fire is flowing. And they would say, "Des not shema." And they would say "Chal gish," or they would start off with "Chal kach," for the beauty way of that fire, the blessing way of that fire. And then the "Chal gish," part of it is the protection way, teaching that relates to the fire. So they would say khal khalkon, khal gishkon, and then they would say diti ebakan, and then diti ebaad, meaning the wood that's poking into the fire. Diti ah, there's a male version, and then the female side. Diti ebaad. So within that, the fire it's in the middle of those logs sitting on top of each other. So that fire is called Hajine, or you would say Konsan, meaning the fire that has been lit from the beginning of time all the way through the evolution of time. It's been the same way and it has never changed before. So with that, they would also say that and then they would say Ya'asni, meaning in the middle of a ceremony, in the middle of the Hogan, it burns right in the middle. Ya'asni. So they would say that Hajine Isyan Ya'asni na yise, meaning it's talking about the body, the way it moves. And then with that they would say the yellow body, and they would say so within that, understanding that, and there's a male part of it and there's a female part of it. There's a blessing way part of it and there's a protection way part of it. It's in every ceremony. It exists in every ceremony. They say that this fire is the one that's the healing power to every ceremony. So there's not a ceremony that does not have a fire. So majority of our ceremonies have this fire within it, or charcoal too as well. So with that, maybe an understanding, maybe, wow, I didn't know that awakening process. And then the awareness, becoming aware of it. The next time you maybe approach a fire, maybe looking at it from a different perspective. And then processing it. Maybe going home or going to one of your elders and saying, you know, or asking that question, is this right? I heard that this fire is actually named this way. And then processing it. And then also reflecting upon it. Maybe even applying your prayer, maybe your thoughts, your song to it, reflecting upon it, reflection. And then also, you know, applying your way of thought, your way of prayer, and then applying that teaching into that too as well. Go to the next one. So this one we're pretty familiar with, concepts of living the everlasting beauty way of life. And then they call it the principle of and within that concept we have also towards the east direction. So within Diné College, you know, these are the principles of our way of teaching. And it's also a part of our mission statement, our Diné educational philosophy. So our everyday of life as a Diné person relate to this concept here, to this philosophy, the principle of so everything that we do, everything that we're doing in our lives, we make sure we think about it first, and then we plan, and then we apply, you know, our life. We apply it to our life. We live it. We don't just talk about it. We don't just plan. We actually, you know, put that action into it, everything that we do. And that sihasin, assuring yourself, making sure that what you're doing is correct or right, and always applying this to your life, always having this concept to everything that you do. The principles of meaning that you're going to live that everlasting life through that thinking process, that planning, that living process and assuring process. We'll go ahead and go to the next one. Human growth and development theories. We have a lot of theories, and I shared this the last time. Major child development theories. Child development theories, cognitive development, social cultural therapy, theories, attachment theory, and then also social learning. Psychosexual development, psychosocial development, behavioral child development. So as you see the pictures on the side, this is all a part of child development. Ako, explaining it from a traditional perspective, when I say ako, the nek echiko ya hal ne o e, ale awe le ha keshinchi che e ats ist ho elkiti na le ilts aro taten se nast ein de zet bigitche ano sel ado le ha keshin khanel in ho tin kho achi e ad e awe ichiho e ado e kono san khaje ketelieho e taten se ado e taten se ki ata al ke hol jish je e ben se kes bebel khahotne betsis bebel khahotne e ben nache e ti ben to betchi to beze to ja to khwa ke al e gitel chdo ye bel nahal ne ki khodo al e yenel enki je kut a yits ado ohol a ba mai yenel beje yenel yidits ako e benal ajo nil to benal yajil to benal je gahki je e benach e khoj belgan ke je e yil khatilla je e kut a ahilne alle bekedan leni da yitrahona na ta lo yits ado ohol a ero ta akhade ta e nsahake slahaki je e den nedan tsada kes astuisan bezata titsa betsodzen begin da titsa je e yits ad e hol da banaln da khegi lo ishi etel eni je its ado e da hol edi ahilne human growth and development theories khojigo e belagana kachiko isto kwaike bakaki. So all of this is from a Western perspective. And it's going to be a part of the human growth and development series that we're going to be doing throughout the semester. And right now, like I said, we already covered prenatal stages. Now we're doing the birthing stage. So that's what we're going to be moving towards. The next one. So within child development theories, beda aliaki je belkana walyaniki je ahan soshi je yeden thaniki le ale jeti e nokha bal ashla in laniki je ale khadoshin iltsa to ado taten se to le the kushin e chito khojet no sanka nabetel Nebetel ye don't know what it doesn't say to lay say dati yaj je velkan and lenigis oh hayu in des kha ado in des kha ho e ade kuta je be ya hashit ayat setes kezgi je bel chance linko je ade kuta e ado na yike elchu khoj no nal chosegi kha yilla ti aba khoni zi ako ti ano seliki chele o chilto no seliti khot aba khoni zi ta nenigi e kha ke bjit tabakha. So 7 of the best known development theorists or theories here, and they're all listed here. And a lot of them talk about like psychosexual development, psychosocial, and then also behavior child development, cognitive development, attachment theories, social learning, and then social cultural learning. So through that, all of these wonderful people have put on paper a lot of wonderful education that you can learn from. So the reason why I put this up here is we're going to go back and forth. We're going to go back and forth from Western and then from Western to cultural, or from cultural to Western. We're going to put it side and side. That way you could obtain a lot of education through Western and cultural education. We'll go ahead and go to the next one here. So from a cultural perspective, so with the people that I listed before this slide, they say that there's many different stages. Some people say 5 different stages of child development. Some of them actually have 9, some of them have 12, some of them have maybe 8 stages. So through the cultural, through that, the child's stages of change, white shell woman and changing woman philosophy. These are the stages here. So just to give you an example of what we're going to be talking about throughout the semester, prenatal stage we covered last week, 2 weeks ago. Today we're going to cover birth. The next few here, you're going to talk about first laugh, the teething stage, first words, first step, potty training. Once we get to puberty, that one from birth all the way to potty training to puberty, that part of it is child development, child growth and development. So through those stages, we're going to learn about all of these wonderful things that are there. So within the next series, the next one is going to cover first laugh, teething, and then also first words, first step, potty training, all the way to puberty. Puberty, we're going to do its separate session. That's going to be an all-day one for male puberty, and then there's going to be an all-day one for female puberty too as well. Adulthood, and then into marriage, becoming parents, becoming grandparents, and old age. So that's all going to be covered through that puberty. And that whole day presentation is all going to consist of all of those ones. So that's how we're going to do the human growth and development. So we'll go to the next one here. The net way of life. Customs, values, tradition, and philosophy. Fundamental laws. So within these fundamental laws, you have the natural laws. Traditional law, customary law, and then also you have your common law. So through these laws, a lot of it, what we're going to be talking about from a cultural perspective, it's going to encompass these laws, these fundamental laws. And a lot of it that we're going to be covering today were not man-made. So for you to understand that these are not created by man. So a lot of the things that we cover today are natural laws, traditional laws, and customary laws. So just to kind of reassure you guys that a lot of the information that we're sharing today are actually from, natural and traditional laws, customary laws. We'll go to the next one. So within that, birthing stage. So here we have a picture of a mountain, and then we have a baby in a cradle board. So we're going to start off from the cultural perspective, birthing stage, the cultural stories of birth, the origin stories of white shell woman, changing woman, the birthplace, which is at Zilch'ol. So when you say Zilch'ol, you try to figure out which mountain is it? So that one right there, that little mountain, that's called Zilch'ol. When you go towards Farmington, you're going to go past Bloomfield, and then there's a place called Natantzil. So that place right there, Natantzil, it's a mountain like this. So this little mountain exists on another mountain. So that mountain right there, Zilch'ol, is the place where birth first took place. So she was the one that created the process of birth, white shell woman. She was the one that created the principles the ethics, the laws of birth. So during the time of her conception was the time when birth happened. A lot of these stories are told, in the winter time and relating to K'eh. So when you relate to K'eh, or when you talk about clanship or kinship, then we talk a lot about these stories. And then also in the blessing away ceremony, they talk a lot about these stories. So within the story of her birth, so due to today, us talking about the birthing stage, we're going to go ahead and share the original story. And it can vary across the Navajo Nation. Many different people have many different teachings, but the concept of it, the philosophy of it, is all the same. So it might be a little bit different to maybe another family. They might tell it a little bit different. But still, we never tell each other, yours is wrong or yours is wrong. Because the philosophy, the concept, the teaching that comes behind it, it's the same across the board. Akut aya kwa ake ye ya ba hotil ne yoshkri asza yizchink che ado kutano lata the neck achiko yakhay ch dani leso che kut di ki bahanne ki che hun shen de ba da hotil ne che o eket o thisla ko bne ye che kwa ake ya le o chilto no selto sampi na ilte pa ta huil ne iki penach go che kwa ake yikha o chilke kwa ake az chinke pa hanne che kot ay kwa ake yikha che ben ye kwa ake ba hatil ne. So the story goes, I'm going to go ahead and tell it from an English, a Western perspective, to use this English language, to try to translate everything. And then I'll go back and resort back to the Navajo too as well. So the story goes, right here where this mountain exists, not too far from there, there's a cornfield. And within that cornfield, that's where, first man and first woman, they had their home. They had their home established and their livelihood. And within that time period, at this time period, they needed some type of protection because there was a lot of evil things that were taking place. There was a lot of nayet, meaning evil or monsters. They were slaughtering people. And there was a lot of negativity that was going on. So first man and first woman, they came together with certain ceremonial objects, and they motioned with prayer, with song, with hope, with thought. And when they did that, not too long after, all of a sudden on top of this mountain, you see how the skies are clear. Not too long after, began to form a cloud. It began to form. And then it started expanding like this across the sky. And then within that time, it started to light. There began to be a light within those clouds on top, back and forth, clouds going back and forth. And then all of a sudden, the male lightning came down first, and it hit the ground. So when that happened, they call it atiltil, and then they call it chalgish. When it did that, meaning that it moved the earth, that thunder, that lightning hit, and then the noise, the thunder, it moved the earth. And while it did that, then it made a vibration into the air, and then into the atmosphere, into the environment, a sound, that vibration sound. And it rattled all the way around that environment. So when it did that, then the female one came down again. That one was straight like this. So that straight one came down. And then not too long after that, then formed a rain. It came down like this. So that hair, it looked like a hair coming down from that cloud. And when that happened, then right after that, then a rainbow formed. So when all this was going on and taking place, there's the first talking God. He came out and he looked at it, and then he asked first man and first woman. He says, what's going on over there? What's happening? And through that, his emotions and saying, what's happening, what's going on. So that's when first man and first woman, that's when they looked over there and they first saw what was taking place. So then the first talking God made his way that way. And as he made his way that way, there was no way up. He tried to make his way up. But then he turned around. He said, oh, okay. I can't get on top of this sacred mountain. Let's try it a different way. So then he walks back, and then he starts singing. So as he's singing, he starts saying like, Bichiteya, I'm walking towards. And then Bichishah, I'm making my way that way. Or I'm going to walk that way, I'm walking that way. And it says, and then right when he got to it, he says, Baniya. So he's singing songs as he's doing this. And then when he says, Baniya, then there was a way up. He went to the top. He only went to a certain distance, and he looked at it. He looked at what was going on, maybe to around his eye length. And he went back down. He went from the south side, and he went maybe shoulder length. He went back down, went from the west again, maybe to his waist. He went back down, went to the north, to his ankles. He didn't yet go all the way up. So when he made it up to the top, that's when he says, Khasayya. And then he looked around. He says, Atahoyesti, meaning that I made it to the top. I'm looking around. But within that time, then he looked over here, and then that's when he saw that there was white shell everywhere on top of this mountain. So when you go up there today, now, when you actually go to the top up there of this mountain, you're actually going to see white shell everywhere. You're actually going to see it. You're going to also see a lot of prayer stones that are being put right there, maybe stacks of rocks. When you go up there, it's a very spiritual place. So when he went up there, he looked, and here there was sand. Some people say sand. Some people say water. And within that, this is what he saw right here. Kind of just a picture, but maybe it was more spiritual. It was more, spiritual, and it looked different. But just to show you like what he visualized. When he looked, that cradle board, the existence of that cradle board, it comes into existence right here. So that one that goes across the head like this, it was a rainbow. And then the sunbeam was shining underneath. So the bottom part of it, there's in the middle of it, there's actually like a crack between the right and the left, the bottom cradle board, that board at the bottom. So one of it represents Yadishkil, and the other one represents Nahostan. The middle one, that in between it like this, it's actually that sunbeam that comes in between, that exists between sky and between earth. And then at the bottom of the cradle board, there's usually a small, maybe like a small little board like this that holds the bottom. There's one at the bottom and one on top. They say the top one is Sa'anagay, the top one that's tied to the board, that ties the board together. The bottom one is Bikahwajon. And then he looked at it, and on top right here, there's the clouds and the mist and ahakos. That was all that existed around it. And then what it was tied together with was Atsankish. And then they call it Atzol, male and female lightning. That's what some of, the rope or the string, the leather, that's what that represents. And at the bottom, the small rainbow. That's what that represents. And then there's many other different representation. And the whole teaching of the Cradle Board comes in. That's a whole different series if you want to go into the Cradle Board teaching. But as he walked towards it, he said he saw a child. So that's when he sings the song of the one they utilize all the time in every blessing way ceremony. He says, Biyaja, Bikiya. And that song says, so that's when he came and he saw the child. And as he was moving towards it, then he heard a noise. And that noise is why they call it a weh. It's the name of it traditionally, a weh, a weh. That's where the name comes in, a weh. So chago, a weh. So that song was created, and then that's when he sang that song again. The next song that goes with it, after it goes then he says so that's the baby, the representation of what they saw, whether it was sand, water, and then they say sand, and then it was right there. So that song came into existence, and he came to the child. He picked up the child, and he put the child in his arm, and that's where he was going to take the child home. But then first man comes running up and says, how are you going to raise this child? Then he says, corn pollen, we only utilize that to use it to pray to you. I'm going to use the babbits, and then he named all these different types of meat, and then also corn. He says. So he says, okay, I agree with you. Then he gave the child to first man, and the child was taken home to first woman. And first woman came out of the Hogan. She stood to the right side of the entrance as you're looking at the Hogan this way, on the right side this way. You look at meaning that when the child was put into her arm, right as first man was bringing the child, he put her into first woman's arm, and she embraced the child, and that's when she utilized two words, na ihinsen, na ahansen, meaning love, respect, kinship, clanship, ayotne. That's what she embraced the child with. From that day forward, she embraced that child as her own, and she raised the child as her own. So now, how does this story relate to birth? Now let's go back. Okay, when they first saw what took place, the clouds came about. And the clouds began to form. Within that, there was a light. And then all of a sudden, the lightning hit like this, male, and then the female lightning hit. Okay, what does that represent in birth? When it is time through your prenatal stages, you have 3 trimesters. When the child is fully developed and ready to come out, there's a message that's sent. And that message exists within that right there when that lightning's hitting, that thunder. So within that lightning and thunder, it represents that contraction that a mother goes through. That contraction. I don't know how it feels, but man, it looks pretty pretty difficult. For me, when my wife was going through contractions, she was laying there, she was giving birth. I was told to feed her ice, and she was going through those contractions. Every time she had one, she grabbed my hand and she almost squished my fingers. It was so tight. And then the nurse were telling me to put the ice around her mouth because her mouth was getting all dry. But I forgot about that, so I ate all the ice by myself. I ate that ice. So she was saying, "Where's the ice?" She started getting after me. So, that contraction, they tell me that, females say that it hurts. It really hurts. You don't know as a man, and some people, they come up with these different things, and they put electric to the stomach, these different things to try to make a man feel like they're having contractions. But really, in reality, the female are the only ones that can endure that pain. So due to white shell woman ethics and principle, to endure that pain. So within that, the contractions. So right after the contractions, you're having contractions, your cervix, right then and there, when it's fully, the baby's ready to come out, that's when the first thing that happens is your water breaks. Your water breaks. So that's that representation of that teaching that I was talking about. After the lightning, then the rain comes down. So once that rain came down, so when that happens, once the rain came, that's when your water breaks. That Natsilit is a representation of the child coming out of the human being, of the mother. So when that happened, that spiritual existence of white shell woman, changing woman, when they saw her, she was in the midst of all those spiritual deities. So when a child is put into this world, that's what happens. And we also relate, the concepts to, teachings of the corn. We also relate a lot of the philosophies of the corn, the way it's planted, the way it grows out of the ground, and how, the development of the corn all the way to the corn tassel. So through that, they talk about that. And the child is in that same development. As you plant a seed into the ground, and all of a sudden you put water, you bring that mist, and you bring that lightning, you bring all of that, and all of a sudden it sprouts out of the ground. The first thing that grows is the roots, and then it begins to sprout. And once it comes out of the ground, that's the representation of meaning that child, that seed was planted in mother's womb. Within 9 crescent moons, the child is planted on this earth. That sprout begins to happen. So when that child is being put on this earth, each one of those cobs like this is going to be maybe the growth and development, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, all the way into higher education to a doctoral degree up here. So that concept, that philosophy, it relates to human growth and development, child development. So there's another concept that relates to the cornstalk.
Ado leje beti na kis tapeti ado bezol bachadatin ho leche akot aye ano sel lede o chil ano sel leje sabi na ilte akot aya tahadne. So through that, just to share that with you as well, white shell woman, changing woman, ethics and principle,
Male and female restrictions during pregnancy. Male and female restrictions during birth. We talked about during pregnancy. We talked a lot about some of those ones. And then restrictions after birth. So we'll go to the next slide here. The principles of and ethics of white shell women. So during pregnancy, they say that behazani hallo, meaning that you cannot do certain things when you're pregnant. For an example, tying things. You don't tie knots. You don't tie knots. And then also you don't look at dead animals. And then also you don't eat seafood. Those are just a few of them, but there's many more of them. And then when you're pregnant, it's not just you pregnant, your husband is also pregnant with you. So a lot of the principles and ethics that relate to your wife relate to you. So you don't say, she's the one pregnant. I can eat whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. I can go where I want. Nope. As a male, you're restricted to do these things too as well. So based upon these natural laws, ceremonial laws, you're restricted to do a lot of these different things that your wife is restricted to do as well. And through that pregnancy, within that 9 months, you have to be reverent. You have to have that respect for yourself, respect for nature. And within that, you have to take care of your mental health, your physical health, your emotional, and also your spiritual, holistically. You have to take care of yourself. Bahwas dissin do bi gaha elhijde nida do ulchinjit shonda do bi gaha elhijde nego hota jinada ini oden kison joshha do hijde nida e we kwai ben chini do shida do jinida. You know, they would say that. They would say like, oh, I don't think that's my baby. It might be somebody else's baby. You know, that kind of stuff. You don't say that. Do ojinida kodiye I don't aware is datens datens se ako lo leno selo je huists dolel ano kodo je ba maben chegi kodo hota je le ben chegi ye nahitzi ye yanegi kodbiti je ben na ekod a majelenigi in Tzekis, Yajilki, Eason, Zanigi, J. Kodaway, Wegi, I down Ohosh, le Kodi East, do Ado Ohosh, hot Yada Hazne, Ebenna, Ata Hajilia, Ebenna, Hajo Hazad, Ba Hajilia, Lego no Zan Kagon Jarago Ba Hajilia, Hastido, hot Hajilia. Ano kodo beelchi yajil ti da beelcha hajilia ako do bi gahit ado le e kut baby ya hajil da do baby yajil ti da le da tibil gan da na khajini da akut da hat khala da khage da hot le besh da behen igi da hot khoj da yo da shi chi hat khala jini da hot da hat khala. So just concepts of how the child is developing within the 9 months, principles, ethics on your child. As that seed is being planted from that day forward, you are the first mother. You are the first teacher as a mother. You are the first teacher as a father. So everything you do from that point on, your child will develop. Maybe somewhere down the road, you might say like, Sha'away Hashit Benabnta, Hashit Abajan Kinde, Lede Otsade Ade, Dois Chedo Kodobanatlan, Haisha Baby Heinzi, Hashit Ahalet Zala, Beneyi Ash, Hagdash Nebenigins. So those kind of things they talk about. That's why they relate to natural laws. ceremonial laws. When you break these laws like this, and that's when that mental, these different disorders come around. These different, I guess you could say, disorders. Jane hit the neck at you go and nahot and sakes which in nahot it's is a j na yilna bebich and nahot beni those kind of things. So through that, male and female restrictions during birth, sacredness of birth. So, always thinking of that. During the time when you're going to have a baby, you don't invite the whole community and say, watch me born a baby. Just the right people, your immediate. Meaning that as a father, you don't watch the process of birth. So a lot of different teachings like that. They have all these different teachings. So you go with what your grandmother tells you. You go with what your grandfather tells you. The sacred process of birth. So within that, did I write it 2 times? Yeah. The sacred process of it. So when you're going through that birth, putting a human life into this world, there's a sacredness about it. I call him my son, but through clan, he's an older man. He lived to be in his 90s. And I was asking him, I said, Shiget, and he says, he was the one that was talking about, he says, people, they say holy people over here, then there's people that are drawn on pictures and say, that's holy people, that's God, that's the holy people. He says, to me, I lived on this earth for over 90 plus years. He says, what's holy to me? What's God or spirit to me? Sacredness to me? He says, when a human being comes out of a female, and it's planted on this earth. Wow, that's the most sacred thing in this world right here on this earth. To actually bring a human life into this world. He says, that's spirit to me, that's holy to me, that's the most spiritual thing. So keep that sacred, he says. So nowadays, when a child is being born, you have parents, maybe they have their caps turned backwards. Damn, man, he's going to be a crip. Yeah, what's up, man? That kind of stuff. Standing there, actually, in front of this child being born, or some of them are intoxicated. Some of them might have been drinking or smoking or on drugs right there while this spiritual thing is happening. And they're already maybe putting a rag on the baby when it's born. That kind of stuff. Keep it sacred. As a male, you have to have that male roles and responsibility. As a female, you have to have that female role and responsibility. As a father, as a mother, that's where we talk about this. You're the first teachers to this child. You have to behave yourself. Hansa case ba hazza ba hajilia kwaiki ejit enigi ejot inli ba hajilia kwaiki we no san kajik ebet eliani hajo ba zist ba hajilia jokut. That's what they mean, having that respect and keeping that sacred process, very sacred right here. And then restrictions of after birth, blessings of the child to the sacred fire. They call it tzita ishto. You take the child home. And when you take the child home, you're going to have the child in the cradle boards. Let's go back first. When the child is put on this earth, koji ichi, yichiko. If it's a male, they say you breastfeed on the left first. If it's a female, you breastfeed on the right first. You have to understand that. And then also right here, when they're born like that, you have to wait. That's my grandmother's teaching. And then also on top of that too, same thing that happened when white child woman was brought back home to first woman. So that's what you have to do. Ba ahaznizi, ba isnizi. Ayo nepe etijil. So when my first child was born, I thought I was all tough. I thought I wouldn't cry and all tough and serious. Number 11 right here, and then standing there. But when my daughter came into this world, man, there's a tear that came down. So it was a good feeling. Right here, or they come into this world, and then also you see the baby for the first time. So when that happens, so the mother greets the child, the father greets the child. From there, you go home. And when you go home, you do the blessing of the sacred fire. That soft part of the head up here, that's where that fire has to penetrate. Kodigi, I'm going to go back again. I forgot about the biblical cord. So, there's a spiritual air that comes around and penetrates the mind and goes into the body. They call that that's the existence, that human existence that's within a child. It's not that the baby is being slapped at the bottom by the nurse and then, it's not that. This air, that spirit that's within this child. That one, so from that day forward, there's procedures. So that's where you have to, the sacred blessing of the fire takes place. You go home, and the fire greets the child by penetrating up here into the skull of the child. Everything greets the child, the earth, the sky, all the way around. Yes. Yeah. What do you do with the placenta? That's the one we're going to talk about right here. The placenta, and then and also the umbilical cord. That one there, the care of it. So you don't burn it. So you go home, you take that placenta home, you put it at the ash pile. That one is planted at the ash pile. Some of them say the ash pile. When baby's falls off, that one, some people put it in their, maybe they put it somewhere, and they put it in a book and say, but reality, maybe the foundation of your home, maybe even a horse corral, you actually give that back to nature and put it. That one, they say that the mind of the child will always go back there, where the placenta is or where the tse is. Umbilical cord, that one, where you put it is where the child's mind is going to be. And it's always going to want to go back there. That's what they say about that one. Restriction of movement and activities. That's why, after you give birth, grandma might say,
I don't not the logo ana I don't not the deeds all meaning that you might pull a muscle or you might cause some type of physical, something might happen to you physically. Avoidance of death and sickness of the child. When you give birth, you don't go to a funeral. You don't associate the child with any type of death. So watching out for that. Akotela birthing stage. I know you guys have a lot of questions, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to Kamika. And we'll go ahead and move forward with that too as well. And we'll go ahead and go with the questions towards the end. It is now 4:15. Oh, Johnny. We're going to actually go with Johnny here. Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go to another presenter here real quick. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. What's going on? Okay. Here we go.
Ja, det er sådan her, kvage. Kun så og chill kvage. Bare holde ko. Kun ja. Just to kind of share some more here about the human growth and development part of the series here, birthing stage. So, and I just came up with a few slides here just to talk about certain things here pertaining to the series here, the topic of today. So, and say good afternoon to each and every one of you that are listening out there, that are here too today. So, hadasiu gizige ko kunzach nkhiltahanil ni ko so we're going to put this on here for you guys. Okay, so Kwagi holds just low traditional childbirth. O chiligi Kwagi ya ba huileko. Kedan shi ya le da ni hizaz de khin ya hoda le da ta elte ko. Kedan shi do ya le zel in shin do da chida na da na san shin do da chida na ade. Only aha one den da china do no ya da hadne ko shje do le shi do shmasan shna skin so what ya da hadne ko le so our ancestors, they were born at home on the aha one day e hot on da china qad ya en le zel in the people are born at hospitals. These hospitals, there's people that die over there. These hospitals, they're probably like homes that were contaminated by death. So that's where babies are born now. So did you think about it? We go back to a traditional way, we go back to Western way. So maybe that's why a lot of people, they have a lot of, we have people that say we have mental mental illness, depression, and a lot of people that say they have they want to have like I guess take their own lives, committing suicide, those kinds of things, and then health issues, health effects, all those kinds of things. The nedo istane chinin da hachine Genova da hajne ko hoda, and then and then just talking about our traditional way here, like that and had about the kine Generico, and they had arranged marriage to make sure that a boy and a girl, a young man and a young woman, are not related. So and then when you bring up something like this, it seems like people, they don't want to kind of listen to it. And, oh man, like they kind of get edgy about it. But the old people, they say that they kwagi heda jilniki kwagi eto bitlinja ashta to bit ina jileta other kwagi budges chingo da hash chino da to bitlinja ashta el khajil chino da ehota el kizdil chino do jil ina donja ashta jo neja namat nteje netsele nade so that's what they used to say. They had arranged marriage. Make sure that the bloodline, we don't want no effects on this baby right here, like that. Grandpa Wilson, he always says that they call the blood flow. We want a blood flow to be clean. No, we try to go back to who we are, like that. So so and then so kwagi o chithno yahalne shnagi ashna kwa yahalne le kwagi stane kwagi away bidi nago shin tlolne de yat bait le go tlto kwagi and kwagi, they have a rope, they have a sash belt right here up above right here na kwagi behas tlolne le kwagi so anle hwandet an da chine ko no ba da hajle ko so and then so auto sin do bahalo sin kwagi, there's songs that go along with that, so to where that when a woman is giving birth, there's going to be no problem, no pain. They're going to have a real good smooth birth. So we're going to go on to the next slide here, go down. So and then other question kwagi nilche diyin kwagi so kwagi away hard shako le away hard klistara kwagi hard sha the baby gasp for air. We are blessed with there's that, I guess, the great spirit. I guess there's that great spirit within us. So we are blessed to have we have within us. So kwagi and hasama kwagi hitelieko kwagi other di he arche blows air. He blows his air into us. Kwagi kot alchin linigi kota ya ba hidi zi ko kwagi ado in le kojo. That air goes into our lungs, goes into our heart, all the way. There's oxygen within our body, within our blood. So it goes everywhere within our body, within our veins, our vessels, into our brain, all the way. We are able to exhale. A baby exhales the air like that. So when the baby cries, that's a real that's significant to us, our people, the net people. So chako be ahazan le digin has ango digin da halongo dingo enila ni yajin here we enila ya ni tsuya je enila ya ela ko abada hajat ne ko. And so we're going to go on to the next slide here, talking more about the spiritual air. So we do our best to take care of that spiritual air that's in us. Is waiting for you, is waiting for us. These holy people are waiting for us. We tell our Che to be within us again. She nasen zinolil, she nasen zinolil. She na hundlondolil, shin sikis non cleanolil, she not at non cleanolil, she not non cleanolil, she see within non cleanolil, she sodas and she non cleanolil, she yod net non cleanolil, she nasen zinolil, and jnon and legon non star, ne naset zilo. Kot sota hadizin lego hot ya hodat ela ko so hot ya hot ela eshin ba hojilya dinch digin di kwagi nich in helya hagi don hida enle hashayal ke digin da be ko hot eshin bin na shnan do za and tzikista do za ya jilkida do bolni hit on lego do whatever you please. We can't do that. We can't be that way. Hajo kwagi, hajo hunjunigi, hajo na shado leti niya. Kot eshin ba hojilyana ko do zadene banjit ina do zadene tijil ina do banahajil ida. And just to kind of reiterate that why we are the way we are right here. So I'll go on to the last slide here. I made a quick paradigm here. So this is our life journey. It doesn't matter what time of the day you were born. It doesn't matter what time of the day you were born. We were all born in le hayil kanda, just like this drawing right here, to hogan, to circle. There's a doorway within this world here, this creation right here. There's a doorway. We come in. So hashayatke this is nihilanjo says hashayatke ebina yabitna ini. Kodan he keda koda hashewan a koehota. Your grace zando kota kojo yabitna ini archiko koda a conde yahat hinako kota honeshkistrando condet tosaka kota yahadet ela kon samakagi. Adon le kwagi. It doesn't matter what time of the day, like I was saying. If a baby is a girl, you'll see close. A skit egg or a scat egg or don't is you see close. Hot aya, lay hot elako, hot an has ana, a coaching hot aya, hot Lego hadlin hadlonchene hot hadlin hadlonchene hot bitin ashen asli in Lego hadlin gon le til kebaj no setla the neto has three aron le watch le na le 102 years old the sampaj no got hadlin gi le ban le digin Le ha de shin de die in de nenda glitcher is an rebig big hajon not glitcher had lean had lona geneko hot just to draw this paradigm out for you guys we come into this world with a horse, a white shell horse if you're a girl, a turquoise horse if you're a boy. Yahot anle shabik echo a huil jishin lego, le hejita no bahane. Just to add some, just a few short little things here to the birthing stage of our series here. Sa do nantindo hana ban hitna hadashna kunshako hot ela hon so do le. Gonna pass it over to Kamika Yazi here.
Hi everyone, my name is Kamika Yazi. I am the Health Promotion and Education Coordinator here at Saline Campus. I work at the Student Wellness Program, also known as Oak Hall. So what I do there is focus on health concerns on campus, and then I address the concern through presentations and PowerPoint. I do have an activity. I don't know if I can still do it. Okay. So at this time, maybe grab some paper, some color pencil, markers, crayons, until I get my slide up. Just to do like an overview and summary, the last few weeks of pregnancy are a time of mixed emotions. The mother's tired from physical demands placed on her body by the developing child, may be excited to give birth, yet fearful and anxious of the actual birthing process. The father may be excited to meet the new baby, yet fearful of the new responsibilities and childhood. Birth is a common experience occurring thousands of times each day, yet each birth is unique and challenging to the people involved. So the activity is a think, pair, share. So at this time, you can find a partner. If not, you can work on your own. So again, grab a paper, crayons, markers, and color pencils. So for this one, we're going to do interactive timeline creations. And you're going to focus on the timeline of stage of labor and delivery. So after listening to Travis Taylor's presentation and Johnny Baya Jr.'s presentation, just what they talked to in our language, just try to get that on a piece of paper. The objective here is to have you visualize and remember the stage of labor and delivery, okay? So that's the activity I have here. You can also email it to my address or Travis's email address just to ensure you participated in this activity here. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? You can insert it into the chat box. Thank you.
You can go ahead and enter your questions into the chat box. If you have any questions, then we can go ahead and respond. Okay. And just a reminder that in the following 2 weeks, we are going to have the child growth and development presentation. And it's going to be a little longer than we have today. So if you guys would like to join, I'm going to go ahead and send out another QR code to the Zoom link. And within that too, also we're going to be streaming live, so you're more than welcome to join us through that too as well. If you don't have any questions, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming online. Thank you very much. And we do have a QR code that's on the screen right now. If you could please sign in for us, that will be great. Thank you very much again for your time, and you guys have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, evening. Ahiahat.
You mean my presentation?
Yeah, it's on. It's on. Do you want me to send it to you?
You can post in the comments.
Yeah, it's right here.
All right, yeah, send it to me.